And I think we're live.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
I think we can take our masks off.
Yeah.
We've just been strenuously exercising, haven't we, Alexis, along the river?
It's been a stunning morning, quite warm out here, and the river was gorgeous, the lights, the shimmer. We hope you've had a beautiful morning also. And what's the topic of today, Rach?
So today let's talk a little bit about nonviolent communication and what I see as one of the ultimate goals or aims of it is, and let's see if we can link that with the way in which the goal of NVC is similar to the goal of calm abiding meditation.
I like the challenge.
In between sipping on our coffee.
Good morning, Kevin. Lovely to see you.
Morning, Kevin. Morning, Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte. So, what do you feel, Rach, is the essence of NVC, nonviolent communication?
The essence of NVC is to connect with our underlying needs. But the word needs in English is tricky because we say things in English like, I need coffee. And we all know we need food and we need air and we need movement. But in NVC, we use the word needs to also refer to the qualities in our lives and in our relationships that we deeply value. So we can interchange it with the word values. And so in NVC, when we talk about core needs like safety, security, choice, belonging, connection, these are universal. We all want these qualities in our lives, whether we live here or in a small village in Africa, it doesn't matter. And so, it's about connecting with those.
And so, would you say that one purpose of NVC is to identify the universal need, the more core needs? Is that one of the purposes?
To identify our core needs that are underlying our emotional experience and our cognitive experience.
Okay. And so for people watching, how might they apply this identification of needs that are underlying their cognitive and emotional experience to what does that give somebody in their everyday experience?
Good question. What does it give somebody? For me, it gives me a sense of simplicity. And we've just gone on our morning walk, and you asked me a good question, Alexis, which was, I can't remember the words that you used, but it was along the lines of simplify all of these thought stories and all of this emotional stuff going on, simplify it into what is it that you're needing. So to me, it simplifies my understanding of my experience. And if I can distill it down to one or two or three words, to me that's like a meditation. I can meditate on my experience of my longing for trust or to experience understanding or belonging or something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is, rather than being a whirlwind of thoughts, as many people experience,
Yes.
or a kind of a blur of emotion, as human beings we all experience. Also, you're asking us to distill, and the benefit to people is the simplification of our experience in the recognition of the underlying need. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and feeling into that underlying need. These needs are beautiful. They're inherently positive. Things like choice and freedom, security, connection, belonging. These are beautiful, precious needs that can take, me out of the yuckiness of judgment and emotion into the simplicity and beauty of just being a human being and needing these qualities. Yeah. If that makes sense.
And so For somebody watching at home, what do you imagine are some of the underlying needs that people are experiencing at this very point in time, knowing that we here in Brisbane have been fortunate enough to have COVID come very slowly and to be in a position where we have seen the rest of the world impacted. It's now becoming very close for us here in Brisbane. So there's likely to be a range of needs for people viewing depending on where they are in the world, obviously their personal situations. But what do you feel is one of the core needs for us, as a human collective right now?
Yeah, well, I would attempt to get to the need through the emotion, because I know that one of the emotions a lot of people are feeling at the moment is anxiety and uncertainty. And my best guess is that the need underlying anxiety is certainty, predictability, and security.
Certainty, predictability, and security. Yes.
So Kevin said fear of the unknown likes to monopolise, threatens all securities. So security is a really interesting need to meditate on and contemplate, because what do we mean by security? And in NVC we have a meditation process that we do in dyads, which simply asks the question, how does security live in you?
We could demonstrate.
We could demonstrate. Let's do that. This is a really beautiful dyad, which means in pairs, process. So let's get started. Let's show everybody how this works. So,
and equally, you could be sharing in the comments how security lives in you, and it's likely that, as happens between us, when you say words, it prompts me to connect with the experience.
It does.
Yeah, so feel free to add as we go.
So I might ask you first, Alexis, how does security, a sense of security, live in you?
Security lives in me, thank you for asking, Rach, in a sense of what is firm. It's firm, and it is, there's a sense that there's a flexibility, but there's a rigidity as well. There's a stoicism in security. There's a pattern to security. And there's a reassurance. Yes, security is a reassurance. For me, I find it lives in the centre of my body, around my solar plexus. That's what I'm feeling. Also through my base, my pelvic floor, the kind of pole through the body. Yeah. How about you, Rach? How does security live in you?
As I contemplate security as a need that lives in me, I resonate with some of what you've said about, for me, security has a sense of solidity, of solidness. I liked what you said about the pattern. Because in the pattern, in the rhythm, in the routine, is a knowledge of, is a predictability. Yeah. So to me, it relates to other needs, as always happens in this exercise. The need for security connects with the need for predictability, solidness, and there's a reassurance in that for me. And yeah, it's in the body through the center, and definitely also in the solar plexus. That's interesting. When I connect with where I feel this need in my body, it's in the same place as you.
That is interesting.
Really interesting to do an exploration of the needs as they live in the body. Because we might experience some more in the heart center, some more in the solar plexus, or somewhere else.
And this, in fact, reminds me of some of the Buddhist teachings around recognizing change, recognizing fluctuation, in contrast to the bodily experience, which is very matter of fact, and some sense of reliability in the embodied experience, some sense of separation from, or at least detachment from the change, and a stronger sense of security through being in my body, which has some sense of reliability to it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say the same thing in a different way that you just said. I often say to my clients, the reason to get in touch with our needs or our values is these are abiding qualities. You know, that they're here today, they were here yesterday, they'll be here tomorrow, as opposed to the fluctuations that you've spoken about, the mental and emotional fluctuations, which come and go, which change. The needs and values are abiding qualities of our experience. So I think it's preferable to be propelled forward through our life by these abiding qualities rather than by these very changeable qualities.
Okay, so this is helpful to distinguish between the hype, even, you know, false, fake news, even those pressures that we can see as transient. The situation of lockdown is transient. To distinguish that from more abiding principles of humanity and belonging and connection. That is helpful for me to hear you say those words.
Yeah, and I think if we are driven, say, going back to the need for security, of course we are all motivated by a need for security, although we are also motivated by the need for novelty and learning and discovery, which almost seems like potentially the opposite. I prefer to be motivated by my deepest yearnings and values or needs rather than by fear. So connecting with our felt experience of a need is not to say we don't act on it. In fact, quite the opposite. Once I connect with and feel into my need, then I want that place inside of me to be the well from which I draw, the source of my actions. More so than, of course, we're human, we'll never get rid of fear, that will always be there, but to be more driven by my deeper core need or value than by my fears and my stories. My conditioning, in other words. So we can't tell people how to restore a sense of security during COVID times, but we can encourage you to connect with your need for security and predictability as a inherently positive thing, and to do what you can in support of your need. And I'll say one more thing about the need for security and predictability and safety. I often think of this as just a condition through which we can meet other needs. So when I have security and safety, enough predictability and enough stability, then I can pursue my other needs for belonging and connection and meaning and creativity and these other sort of needs around relationships as well as personal development. It's very hard to pursue those needs from a deeply insecure space. Although having said that, I think of people who were in prison, Nelson Mandela and other avatars of peace, who still managed to live very deep lives despite their very difficult circumstances. So I feel like if they can do that, we can do a little bit of contemplation when we're stuck at home in lockdown.
Yeah, when you're talking about the values, being driven by values, that reminds me of this very simple practice of coming home to our values and putting language around those as well, those qualities that we're looking to base our decisions from, to base our behaviours upon. And especially when we're in strict regulation, to be confronted with ourselves, as you've just described with Mandela. There is that level of confrontation in our homes, and to be confronted with our families as well, to base our responses and our decisions, our choices, on a very clear front of mind set of values, can provide that level of stability and security that you're talking about.
Did you want to go into a short practice or a description of what calm abiding meditation practice is?
Yeah, it would be a pleasure. I'm also interested in what people have said around. We're not getting comments, unfortunately.
But there was a comment there. What was this one?
I'm interested in how people are embodying security.
The other night you mentioned the square breathing, the bottom up practice. Yeah, refocuses us. Thanks for that reminder, Kevin. Yes.
So, well, I mean, the square breathing is a form of calm abiding. I'd be interested to know exactly what the question is, but we could revisit the square breathing as an exercise. How would that suit you?
That would be great, and I'd love it if you could summarise it.
Okay.
Is that okay? Because then I can sip on my coffee.
Absolutely. Okay. So, calm abiding is the essential practice that is common to all strains of Buddhism. Also, other contemplative religious practices would involve the breath or a single point of focus.
And mindfulness teachings in psychology nowadays.
Absolutely, yes. A client only recently said, she's a neuropsychologist, she said the practices we use today in psychology are all, her words were, a rip-off of Buddhism. But I think that is a helpful connection. Thanks, Rach. Yeah. So when we practice calm abiding, we simply use a single point of focus to distinguish between that which is changing and that which is abiding. And we use the breath because it's common to all living beings, humans, animals, trees. So it helps us to break our experience down to this fundamental unit. And you may find for yourself, when you're focusing on your breath, that things start to feel more manageable. It starts to feel simpler. Start to feel more secure. And yeah.
A lot of our insecurity, not all of it, but a lot of it is created by the mind.
So typically we would just observe the breath as it comes in and as it moves out. And my teacher taught us to use the nostril entrance because it's a defined area.
Yeah.
But an image such as the square can help to meet the mind in its activity and settle it down. So let's find a comfortable position. Typically you want to feel quite grounded in the base of your body, so you might press the sit bones down into the surface beneath you and feel that space through the base of your pelvis. You could use your legs in whatever way you're sitting just to engage a little with the ground, and this does provide again this sense of physical stability. You've got that connection against the support. And if we start by noticing that the breath is moving in and that it is moving out, then together at the end of the exhale, we can breathe in 2, 3, 4, and we can hold 2, 3, 4, and we can breathe out 2, 3, 4, and we can hold it out. 2, 3, 4. We can breathe in together. 2, 3, 4. We can hold it in. 2, 3, 4. We can breathe out together. 2, 3, 4. And we can hold it out. 2, 3, 4. And then we would just let the breath return to its natural pace. And simply notice the change in your experience. That's your cognitive experience, the state of your mind, your emotional experience, and the state of your body, your bodily experience. Thank you.
Yeah. I notice when I truly return to conscious breathing, it does simplify my experience back to this moment, which is all there is. It settles the mind to some degree, and in that simplicity, things seem manageable. Things that seemed intolerable seem tolerable. Things that seemed unmanageable seem manageable. Because all I have to do is just the next little thing. The next easiest, most logical step. That's all I ever have to focus on. Which is not to say when I have space I don't plan and set goals. Of course there's a time for that as well. But in overwhelm and in moments of strong emotion, this calm abiding practice brings us back to ourselves. Well, that's my experience anyway. Thank you so much.
That is my pleasure. These are the core practices that we facilitate together during our workshops and retreats, and increasingly with you guys online. So thank you for joining us. Calm abiding is a practice I'm deeply passionate about, and I know non-violent communication is a practice that you're deeply passionate about. So we would love to share with you ongoing an exploration of the crossovers between these long-standing practices, and start to hear more about how you're applying them in your daily lives, in your relationships, how it provides you with a sense of stability and security, how it helps you in practical terms.
Yeah, so before we finish, I wonder if anybody has a question that they'd like to type. We could just wait a moment for any questions that people may have if you're watching. And if not, of course, that's totally fine. We'll be back another time.
Yes, we'll be back on Sunday at 5. That's still good for you?
What day is it today?
Good question.
In lockdown, we really do lose track
got
sometimes.
blurry. We are
Tuesday
today. Our lockdown has just been extended. We're coming to terms.
At least we can still exercise together. One person per household, 2 people maximum.
Yeah.
That's what we've been doing. So Sunday, in a few days' time at 5 p.m, we'll do another Facebook Live, and we'll update you on our respective Facebook pages about the topic that we'll be covering. You're welcome, Denise. I'm glad it was helpful. Okay. Well, till next time.
Till next time.
All right.
Lovely.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye for now.